Good evening and welcome from Hypochondria, Lockdown, Loonyland, formerly the United Kingdom. Well, it's a rather exciting week, isn't it? For instance, I think there's a Chinese journalist that can't speak English very well that's reported that we're giving all the Nazis the clap. Really, we'll hope there's enough penicillin to go around. And government are giving us all the runs. Yes, I think he's right on that one. Anyway, there's a rumour going around. I don't know how true it is that I think it's just a rumour that Elton John, he's had some decorating being done. Well, he's actually had the front of his house has been done up. And due to this virus, he's actually had to close the front. And he's only allowing tradesmen up his back passage at the moment, of his house, of course. But I think it's a rumour. I don't think it's true. Anyway, on with the show. I think this is going to be rather exciting this evening. And first of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to a website called, I've written it down, Stealth Campervan Man. And it's a chap called Brett. Hello, Brett, if you're watching. I'd like to say thank you because he gave a call out to me when he was doing one of his live broadcasts. So it's good of him, isn't it? And he lives in a van and a garage. And it must be particularly difficult during this sort of situation we've got now, living in the back of a van. First of all, I'm going to give a couple of tips, actually, because I don't know if you're like me, but I don't think anybody really likes queuing. I can't stand queuing. And I feel a bit of a twit sort of standing outside 1 metre away from somebody else outside the supermarket. So I generally try and choose times that are, shall we say, not that many people go down to do any shopping. And but what you can do if you're finding things are a bit short, things like that, is pencils and papers are ready, right? You can actually, now again, before I mention this, do your own research first. But apparently you can eat dandelions, which are free and along the roadside. Well, I wouldn't advise going anywhere near a road or shall we say, if you're going to pick dandelions, not next to roads and very much above dog cocking level. But you can actually eat the whole of dandelions. Now, I've tried it, and I have to admit that the leaves are a bit bitter. But you can put them in to make a kind of a salad. I know the French eat dandelions. And also with greens. Now, I've noticed in the supermarkets, you either get an abundance of something like broccoli and not many greens, or abundance of greens and not much broccoli. And to make things go a little bit further, you can actually cook stinging nettles. And I can imagine Brett saying, look, I've stung all my arms here. This twit Eric Von Essex said that you can cook stinging nettles. Well, you can actually, and the sting goes out of them. You cook them like greens, and they're absolutely packed with vitamin C, and so are dandelions. So if you get a little bit, a bit short, and you don't really fancy queuing at the back of a queue at the supermarket, then nature is there to provide it. And the other thing is, if you buy some organic bananas, all right, you eat the bananas, but you don't throw the skin away. But the reason I said organic, because the non-organic are sprayed with nasty chemicals. You can scrape the white sort of pus or whatever you call it on the inside of the skin away, chop the banana skin up, and then you can mix that with all kinds of things. I actually mix mine with porridge oats, a little bit of water, lots of seasoning, lots of flavouring, things like pesto sauce and things like that. And I've got tins of corned beef, and luckily I stocked up, but of course they're not going to last forever. So to make them go a little bit further, you can mix the chopped up banana skin with the corned beef, pat them round and make sausages. And you can make several meals out of that. So I hope these are going down, these nice little tips. Anyway, on with what we're going to talk about today, and that is humour. I think that it's in very short supply, and I've noticed that the government seems to be clamping down on people being happy. I think happiness now is going to become, well, it is against the law, really. And there's an absolute ridiculous situation. I was watching a YouTube video of a woman, I think it was in Twickenham or somewhere around there. She's sitting on a park bench. I think she's sitting next to the river. There's no one around. She's on her own. Suddenly a copper comes up and says, "What are you doing here?" And he arrests her for sitting on a bench because she should be at home. And it's how you interpret the law. You know, I mean, my feeling is that what we have now is a sort of like a religion. Belief in the government is a religion. Now, what do you think that most religions have a symbol? For example, if a person's a Christian, you know, they'll have a cross around their neck. And, oh, by the way, evening, some spread lies, others know the truth. Who's who? Yeah, I'll just put his little banner up here. Greetings. Yeah, anyway, as I was saying, you know, Christians have a cross, Jews have the Star of David, and there's other religions that have all different symbols. Like, I think, you know, you have Hindus have turbans and things like that. Hang on, what's this? Stop someone living, expect the same back. Anyway, I was going to say, so we've all got these symbols, and I think belief in the government is a religion. Now, what we've got at the moment, what I believe is being rolled out, because I think this is a pandemic, and the evidence is, in my view, completely in your face. Now, if people want to, you know, I will stand 6 foot away from people. I'll do all the rituals that they expect me to do. You know, if they want me to put a mask on, I'll put a mask on. If they want me to wipe my hands in a load of old shit or cleanser or whatever, I'll wipe it. Although what I'll do, I'll put some gloves on first because I don't really want all that old crap over my hands. But, you know, I will abide by people's religious beliefs. Okay. So standing 6 foot away, which is not really much of a problem for me because after a chicken vindaloo curry, most people do stand 6 foot away from me, but that's another question. Anyway, as I was saying, I've had this idea, you see. So what I was saying is Christians have got crosses and other religions, you know, people have got turbans, all kinds of things like that. So why can't we, well, as this is a communist rollout and to do with United Nations Communist Agenda 2030, and if you believe that governments are there for democracy, well, no, they're there for communism. Now, what is communism? We used to call communism Reds. R-E-D, Reds. Now, if you say the word red backwards, you get duh. So, if you support the government, how do people that believe in the government religion recognise each other? Simple. They stick their finger in the air and go, duh. Marvellous, isn't it? What do you think? You know, people say, oh, I think Boris is doing a marvellous job. Duh. They're showing you that their religious belief. I think that I think I'm on a cracker there. I'm really on a winner there. So remember, if you meet somebody, respect their religion, and to say, come on. If somebody says, oh, I think this pandemic, it's worrying, blah 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 blah. Just say, don't worry, I support your belief. No, I not support. I respect your belief. Duh. See, so we've started something new there. But I personally believe that this is probably, and I'm not sure whether I should say this or not, probably the cleanest time you could wish to go out. And I've been thinking of, I mean, remember, I'll stand 6 foot away from people and I'll do all the, you know, religious rituals because this is a religion, whatever a belief is, it's a ritual. But I thought I might lay back on the fart gags today, but I must tell you this little secret that between you and I, I've said in a previous video that I'm not keen on sport. Apart from ladies nude basketball, I do enjoy watching that. I like to see the ladies' cunning stunts on the basketball field, you see. But there's another little hobby or sport that I like to do, and in saying this, I'll probably be banned from every supermarket. But my hobby is secret farting in the supermarket. It's great fun, it is. And unfortunately, this virus pandemic has booted all the fun out of it. You see, because before this happened, I must tell you this little story, you see. Before my dad passed away, he had a stroke and he was in a wheelchair, and I used to wheel him around the supermarket. And I think if this is a kind of an Olympic event, farting in the supermarket, I know I'm bragging now, but I would be a gold medalist. I really would. I'm sorry, I'm showing off there. I better hold my collar as well, look skyways. But I've got a lot of competition because you think you've got the Germans that have got their sauerkraut and lager, and you've got the Ireland. They're a tough contender, you know. They've got their cabbage and Guinness, which is very tough. But I've got my, you know, 3-bean salad, vindaloo curries and things like that, you see. So it's dedication. And the secret is to, I usually like to go around the vegetable aisle and the fruit and just let what I call a soft killer go, lifting the legs slightly, you know. And people would normally sort of come within 2 meters of me and go, bloody hell, great, someone crawled up someone's bum and died or something. Give me one moment. Or they'd have a religious moment. I'd go, Jesus, what's that? Well, anyway, I was in the supermarket with my dear old dad when he was alive. It's over 10 years ago. And I was looking around where there was, I think it was apples, a load of apples. No, oranges, that was it. All piled up, you see. And he went, blimey, he said, you haven't, have you? So I said, yes. And a woman came up, stood next to me. And I said, poor, these oranges, they smell poor. She went, well, they smell of stale farts, don't they? Sorry, I had to mention that one. But anyway, what's happened now, you see, I went to the supermarket the other day to do my, you know, keep in my Olympic tradition, trying to, you know, be very competitive. And I did an absolute beauty after a vindaloo curry. And people with their masks, they didn't notice it. And of course, because people are 2 meters away, they don't notice it. You spot all the fun in it, you know. So there we are. Don't tell anybody else. And whatever you don't tell any supermarkets, because I'll be banned from them, you know. But that's my secret to that. That's the 2 sports that I indulge in. You know, not indulge in, sorry. The first one, ladies nude basketball, is a spectator sport. And the other only sport I actually do is the farting in supermarkets. Anyway, on with what we're about to talk about today. Now, what's happening today? Just give me one moment. Before I start, let's have a look in chat section, shall we? Yeah. Hello, some spread lies, some spread lies, others know the truth, who's who. We've got some lovely. Give you a big hug if you like. Yeah, why not? That's nice, isn't it? Live evil. Evil farts, yes, I know, I'm terrible. Good vibes. Hello, Brett. Oh, by the way, I mentioned you earlier on the video, so if you missed it, please go back, and I talked about dandelions and stinging nettles. And if you go on your live video and say that sod Eric Von Essex has told me to go and pick stinging nettles, and it's all up my arm and everywhere, don't blame me. Wear some rubber gloves, all right? So, so you'll have to, after the program, you have to hear the beginning of it. Anyway, thank you very much for giving me a mention on your live platform, and I've done the same back. There we go. And what we got? Hey up, there we go. And you're a marked man. That's right. If I walk into, I won't say what supermarket, security probably, get out. There's a phantom farter here. We wonder what his stink was. I'd say the best place to do it is in aeroplanes, because the air conditioning sort of, shall we say, it shares it. You know, people get my drift. Right, now on to some serious stuff. That's enough of the fart jokes, so no more fart jokes today. Sorry about that. Now, I'm going to read out something that I found earlier today. And this is some statistics. Now, I question, why is it that reporters do not ask the right questions? Now, I have no qualifications or experience in journalism whatsoever. It's not my area, okay? But how comes I can find out certain things, and you can find out certain things. And I don't know if there's any journalists watching today, but we can ask questions, but they're not asking the right questions. And one of the questions, and the reason why they're not answering the right questions, is our newspapers are owned by 6 huge, very, very multi-billionaire people, corporations. So they don't put a word out of place because they'll be given the order of the boot. And that's why they must all, shall we say, look along the agenda. For example, how comes it takes citizen journalists to allegedly drive around hospitals and find they're empty? And how comes it takes journalists, citizens, to look up statistics and to look up what the government is saying on their website, their foreign office is saying on the website about this COVID-19? Now, isn't it strange? There's supposed to have been a flu epidemic in 1918, and now we've got this 19. Strange, isn't it, really? But so just one of those things. And oh yes, we got here, reporters are government agents. Yep, spot on. And this, yeah, I agree with you. Now, I'm not just saying, oh, it's a hoax. I always think along the lines of the word stop. Stop, think, orientate, plan. So if I'm doing anything, if I get lost anywhere, I stop, think, orientate, plan. Think it through. Look at the information you're being given. And then look at different statistics. Now, I'm going to give you a few statistics here, and you can look these up yourself if I can find it. Here it is. Right. I'm going to read this off the screen now. Right. This is, I've found, if you go onto the source is all the W's, worldometer.info. Okay. So it's all the W's, worldometer.info. Now, this is global deaths from January the 1st to March the 30th, 2020. Okay, so it's this year, it's quite up to date. Right, most amount of deaths. Top of the list is abortions, which is 10,402,251. Next is communicable disease, 3,177,081. Cancer, 2,990,000. Smoking, 1,223,439. Alcohol killed 602,105. We're going down now. AIDS, HIV, 411 to 415,000. Traffic accidents, 330,000 to 367,000. Suicides, 262,000 to 441,000. Malaria, still going down. Hang on a minute, I just have a sup of liquid. 240,000 to 56,000. Seasonal flu, 118,000 to 980,000. Mothers during childbirth, 75,645. And coronavirus, 35,016. Isn't that rather interesting? So when you look at those numbers and the statistics, it really puts it into perspective, doesn't it? And what we got in chat here, people are saying 5G has something to do with this virus. Yes, I strongly think it has got something to do with it. And it's funny, they're still going ahead putting the towers up whilst there's supposed to be a lockdown. Isn't that strange? Oh, it was funny talking about that. Hang on, I'll just read this last one out. Misdiagnosis is on that list, is it not? Precisely. I personally think that what we've got may be the New World Order's undoing. It's the little boy that cried wolf. Because remember, the people that's worked this out, and it was worked out in 1969, it's been, 50 years in the planning, and there's evidence of that. And unfortunately, yours truly forgot to download all the details, but hopefully on the next show I'll do that. I might be talking to somebody who's actually real genned up on what happened in 1969 when this was originally planned. But I'll have to leave that for today. Sorry about that. But when you listen to the news, for example, you notice they're desperate to put anything with this so-called virus. For example, Eddie Large of Little and Large passed away, sadly, the other day, and he had heart problems. They said it's due to coronavirus. No, he had heart problems. The Marquis of Bath died. He was an eccentric, and I like eccentrics. I think there's a huge shortage of eccentrics, and it's eccentrics that change the world. So I'm a great eccentric enthusiast, and Marquis of Bath was an eccentric, and where he died of cancer, no, attributed to coronavirus. Aren't people seeing through that? I mean, I've noticed that when I listen to BBC local propaganda radio, occasionally, they say something is attributed to, possibly due to, every possibility of. Well, you could say every possibility of anything, couldn't you, really? And it goes on. And I was listening to the Jeremy Vile show the other day, and he was having this the doctor, quack, as I call him. And she was one of these establishment, and she's talking to people, in my view, as if they're children, talking down to, you must wash your hands, you know. If you pick your nose, you know, you mustn't chew things. You've got to flick it across the room, you know. No, she didn't say that, but you know what I mean. And she said, we've got to stop these conspiracy theories, you know. It's terrible. You know, there was even one site which said that drinking water will cure the virus. Well, what I believe she's done is muddled up facts. Now, if she's a person that muddles up facts, I wouldn't really trust her to give a diagnosis for anything, because what has been said, and senior virologists have said this, and I mentioned this the other day, that if you're walking in an area and someone goes, all over you, hold your nose and breathe through your mouth. And then, as soon as you can, get some warm liquid and drink it down, because what happens is the germs will go into your mouth. You drink something warm down, little sip of something, and that'll send the germs right the way down to your stomach, and your stomach acids will kill it. Bang. So there's less likelihood of you going down with something nasty. Now, that's what's said. And I think there might be a number of governments, shall we say, controlled opposition sites going up. So I'll keep an eye open for these that say ridiculous things like the reason for this virus is due to aliens from the planet Zob, and the world isn't flat, it's square. And if you drink, I don't know, water upside down whilst gargling, it'll cure this and that. Done deliberately to show up people that are telling the truth, so they can say, oh, these conspiracy cranks. Yeah. So if you go against the government, you're a conspiracy theorist. No, I don't deal with conspiracies. I deal with facts. I read facts out. That's what I do all the time. Now let's go to chat and have a look at what we've got here. And we've got someone got struck by lightning 2 hours later. He died. Yeah, that's right. My car's got a dicky battery. I think that's due to the virus as well. And did you know if you have a wet fart now, that's due to the virus? Oh, blimey, you know. Neezy boo, eh? Neezy boo. No, sorry, I was going to have my head a bit thick on that one. But no, it's just, it's all sort of adding up. But between you and I think as long as I keep 2 meters away from people, and as long as I, you know, when I go out, I mean, I don't really go by car, because if I'm only going locally to the shops, I usually go by a push bike. And that's the same as ours is. Well, not with other cars around, but it's probably the best time to cycle now because there's cars on the road. And if you pass someone, it's sort of it's within seconds you pass them. But I was actually thinking of having a look around. I'll keep away from people, but there's no one there. But looking around at some of the sites, the tourist sites near where I live, because I've lived here for years, never really bothered to look around. So, it's probably a good time. And there's an abbey, which is very, very old. So I was thinking of having a mooch around there. I don't know if it's open, but I mean, if the police say, "Excuse me, sonny, excuse me, sir, what are you doing walking around here?" I could say, well, I'm not religious, but I could say, well, I fancied nipping in for a quick pray. I needed a quickie. I was on the way to the shops. I thought I'll have a quickie, but I don't think that would be very convincing somehow. But I can have a look at the architecture en route to these shops. But it's a bit of a way. It's a long cycle ride, but if it's a nice sunny day, it's worth it, isn't it? Really. But anyway, on with the show. I've been looking at a book which you can download free of charge. And being a tight-fisted git, it's a good idea to download free books. And it's a book called Propaganda by, what's his name now? Edward Bernays. And I got my nose into it the other day. And boy, it's fascinating because it's really explaining what's going on today. And I'll just have another glug. And hang on a minute, my phone's going. So what we do, we just unplug it. Here we go. And what happened is, Edward Bernays. He wrote this in 1928, almost 100 years ago, but it could have been written yesterday. And I'll just quote the first parts, the contents out to you, and what he says in the introduction. Now, Edward Bernays, first of all, was the propaganda minister in America during the First World War. And he was the father of propaganda. And when it came up to the Second World War, the word propaganda had fallen out of favour a little bit. So they changed it to public relations. And my personal belief is it's now called customer service, but that's my own one. I've added in here. But you just listen to this. This is a crack at this. Just have a listen. Propaganda by Edward L. Bernays. And I say you can download this free. I did. Now, this is the contents, right? Chapter 1, Organising Chaos. Remember, 1928, this was written. 2, the new propaganda. 3, the new propagandists. 4, the psychology of public relations. And it goes on, public, business and the public, propaganda and political leadership, women's activities and propaganda. I think he likes the word propaganda, doesn't he? Propaganda for education, propaganda in social service, art and science. And then the final chapter is mechanics of propaganda. Now, I won't bore you and go on too much, but I'm just going to read the first part, Organising Chaos. Now, remember, 1928 this was written, and it says, the concise and intelligent manipulation of the organised habits and opinions of the masses is an important element in democratic society. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. I'll just read that again. Those who manipulate this unseen mechanism of society constitute an invisible government, which is the true ruling power of our country. Interesting. And so it goes on. We are governed, our minds are moulded, our tastes formed, our ideas suggested, largely by men we have never heard of. This is a logical result of the way in which our democratic society is organised. Vast numbers of human beings must cooperate in this manner if they are to live together as a smoothly functioning society. Remember, I'm reading this. It's not what I'm saying. And it goes on. Our invisible governors are, in many cases, unaware of the identity of their fellow members in the inner cabinet. They govern us by their qualities of natural leadership, their ability to supply needed ideas, and by their key position in the social structure. Whatever attitude one chooses to take towards this condition, it remains a fact that in almost every act of our daily lives, whether in the sphere of politics or business, or our social conduct or our ethical thinking, we are dominated by the relatively small number of persons, a trifling fraction of our 120 million, that was the population in America in those days, who understand the mental process and social patterns of the masses. Well, doesn't that make you think? That really does make you think, doesn't it? Now, when you look at government, who actually pushes policy forward? Think about it. Who is responsible for pushing policy? It's now pressure groups. Now, who funds these pressure groups? Industrialists. People like George Soros and Bill, what's his name, of Microsoft, Bill Gates. Isn't it funny that Bill Gates says on one hand that we are overpopulated, and on the other hand is trying to produce vaccines to save lives? Funny that, isn't it? Remember? Stop, think, orientate, plan. Think about it. Weird, isn't it? So we're overpopulated, but you're going to making vaccines to save people's lives. Yes, very interesting. But what I'm saying is that there always has been a hidden hand, shall we say. And I remember when I started in architecture, the lecturer came in. I've never, ever forgotten this. And he said, this was in the 1970s. He said, there are two political parties in this country. He said, the road builders and the house builders. And he said, if you're in road building, vote for the road builders. And if you're in housing, vote for the house builders. And he said, if you look at the major political parties, just in the wings, you don't see them, there is major movers and shakers from the building industry there who are manipulating the government. And this was in the 70s, he said that. And rather interesting. And another thing he said, which everybody went, oh, and I'm just repeating what this lecturer said. He's getting on a bit. He'd been around a fair time. And he said, there are two types of contractors and builders in this world. He said, the honest who are on the end of a dole queue, and the dishonest are doing very well, thank you. He said, remember that, you won't go far wrong. Now, I don't agree. I've met a lot of honest, good builders, but there is an element of truth somewhere. But that's just what he said, actually. But it's funny what you got here. Some spread lies other than those of the truth. Who is who? Yes, human resources. Yes, that's right. It's propaganda, public relations, human resources, bodies. Have you noticed that people say, "Got a body over here, got a body over there," and it sort of makes you think, doesn't it? But no, I mean, I've noticed now when you go out, for example, something simple like I wanted to buy some. I'm rebuilding a wardrobe, so I need some knobs for it. Okay. And you can get these knobs in the hardware store. Once upon a time, you get in your car, drive down to the hardware store and buy the knobs. Oh, no. You have to order them online and purchase them. And when you go to the hardware store, you're not allowed in. You've got to stay 1 meter away from the door. And the door opens and someone comes and puts what you've ordered on a table, stands back, and then you go and pick it up and walk away from it. And you think to yourself, blimey, what's going on? Now, regarding this, what I call a pandemic, don't you think it's a marvellous way of ushering in communism, isn't it? To me, it's like a sort of 30-day trial of communism, because the whole world, apart from Sweden, and I think Belarus, they're the only two countries I can think of. I think there's a third one somewhere that are not locked down. And the amount of deaths in Sweden is low compared with over the last 5 years, because I read out that scale the other day. There was a peak of seasonal flu in 2017, but there's no headlines about it. Nobody said anything about it. So, and if you look at the graphs, you'll notice that it's just sort of average. So what's going on? Why aren't journalists asking the right questions? Why aren't they saying, how comes the numbers are so low? How comes, and I really do believe that people with increasing numbers are beginning to see through this. I really am. Because just listen to the local BBC propaganda radio. They're kind of hyping. Don't the people in the newsroom there think, hang on, there's something funny going on here? They're desperate for news. They're desperate for this, desperate for that. Now, apparently, they said, a doctor has died of this terrible variety, and of other complications. Now, this man was 77 years of age. I feel sorry for his family and everybody, but he was 77 and he died of corona and other complications. And they call it COVID. The word COVID and covert are very close, aren't they? And I've actually been looking at numerology. Now, my dear old dad, Dad and I, we're quite close. I mean, he's been passed away last March. He's been gone now 10 years. But he was really very much into numerology. And I've probably said this time and time before. Barnes Wallis was the bloke who devised the bouncing bomb. He was into numerology. And it's uncannily accurate. It really is. Now, if you look at, World War II, for example, that's all 369. Everything surrounding World War II is 369. Mr. H came to power in 1933. War was declared on the 3rd of September, 9th month, 1939. Because what you do in numerology is you take the first digits off and you just use the last digits. So it's 39. And the First World War, that had a lot of number sequences going round. And I think it's 157. But I mean, I'm not really up on numerology as much as my dad was. And my uncle was so much into it that he went to buy a car and he had to check the number, the engine number and the registration number to see if all the numbers added up correctly for him. That's because he got the bug from my dad on numerology. And I'll just let you into a little side story here. And this is 100% true. My dad during the war, he was a conscript and he was in the Siege of Malta, the British Army. And his sister sent a book to him called, it was just called, I think it was numerology. And my dad should have been an accountant. He was brilliant at mathematics. I mean, he could add up quicker than a calculator. He was a walking calculator. And he studied it because in Malta, it was one of the most heavily bombed places in the entire war. I think more bombs dropped on Malta than the entire Blitz. So it was and I mean, it's only a small island. It's about 20 miles by 5 miles wide. So, and it's quite what he went through. I mean, he almost starved to death. But anyway, he studied this up. And a chap sort of came to me. He said, can you tell me sort of two things about numerology? And he looked at the numbers and he said, yeah. He said, yeah, tomorrow, he says, it's quite a good day. No, he says, it's quite a day for you. It's quite an eventful day for you tomorrow. He didn't say good day, sorry. He said, it's an eventful day. And he thought no more of it. And a couple of days later, a bloke came in and he said, he said, you gave that reading to that fella the other day about that eventful day. He said, yeah. He said, yeah, he got killed that day. And at that point, my dad gave it up. He said, I'm sorry, I'm not predicting people's deaths. He said, I'm doing this as an entertainment thing. Anyway, news spread throughout the island and people were urging him to do numerology to find out certain things. And he said, no. He said, I'm not predicting people's deaths. He says, that's wrong. And it upset him. It really did. Because he didn't tell the bloke of the death, but he just said something, some event's going to happen in your life. And it all added up. And the strange thing is, my dad was a 369, and he died at 6:30 in the morning on the 9th of March. Isn't that strange? 369. Now, he predicted about a year before it happened, D-Day. Now, in those days, it was called the Second Front. It wasn't called D-Day. And this was whilst he was in Italy. My uncle, well, he wasn't my uncle then, but he was my dad's friend. And my dad's friend, my dad married his friend's sister, who became my mum. So that's how he became my uncle. Anyway, he said, come on. He persuaded my dad to take up numerology again. And that's why my uncle was so mad on numerology. And he said, or a fanatic at it rather. And he said, can you predict the Second Front? And my dad said, yes, it will be the 6th of June, 1944. But to the day he died, he could never quite work out why the numbers added up to 44, which was an 8. He could never work that out. And it bugged him. He said, it wasn't a 369. The rest of it was 369. But anyway, whilst they were on the ship, because they're due to be the first wave in on Gold Beach, but D-Day was supposed to be the 5th of June. And my uncle said to my dad, not bad, you was only one day out. My dad said, no, it's going to be delayed 24 hours. Oh, come on. And he just said it as an announcement over the loudspeaker system that the D-Day would be delayed because of the weather for 24 hours. And they went in on the 6th of June at 6:30. Interesting. Anyway, and remember, Second World War, all 369. And I don't know that much about it. He was very cagey about a lot. Well, he wasn't cagey, but he didn't say too much about numerology. But it was very, very uncanny. And I think he knew I was a bit of a nervous type of character. And it probably bugged me if I was looking up all these things. And that's why he probably didn't say too much to me. He did say a lot about numerology, but he didn't sort of go into the depths of it. Unfortunately, the book that he had on numerology got stolen because all their kit was sent to Egypt, and someone rifled through all the kit bags. And from 1945 to the day he passed away, he tried to find a copy of that book and never did, which is very, very sad. So that's sort of that's quite interesting. And when you look at different series of events, they often fit into a number sequence because we're all ruled by numbers. And you'll probably notice there's certain numbers that come up, like 1111. How many times have you looked at a digital clock or watch and it's been 1111, either 1111 in the morning or 1111 in the evening? And I found that a bit uncanny. 1111, that's a bit weird, And there's a lot of uncanny things. There's a lot 911, a lot of uncanny things with numerology with that. And there's lots of, when you look at things, it's like biorhythms. Now, I always thought that biorhythms were, excuse me, if somebody told you was going to have a bad or critical day the next day, you would, because psychologically you would. And I know that in Switzerland, they go into biorhythms very, very deeply. And it's to do, you can look this up on Google, and I think there's some websites that do it for you. But I don't bother with that because I think it psychologically it can play on your mind. But in Switzerland, if an airline pilot has a critical day on his biorhythms, he's not allowed to fly. And bus drivers, if they have a critical day, they're not allowed to drive their vehicle. And they are the safest buses and the safest airline in the world. So it makes you think, doesn't it? And I think it's the same with train drivers and any public servant that's dealing with human life. I think surgeons as well, if they have a critical day, they're not allowed to actually work on that day. So it makes you think. And on that note, I've been waffling on a long time. I'd like to thank everybody in chat and everybody that's listening tonight. And I will be back at my normal time, my normal slot at 8 o'clock this Thursday. I hope to have a guest on. a mystery guest. I've sort of dragged them on, kicking and screaming, and but no, I'm hoping to have a mystery guest on, and the person that can inform us more about the document that came out in 1969 that predicted exactly what's happening now. No conspiracy, black and white. There it is, fact. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me tonight. And remember to stop, think, orientate, plan, and always be an individual. Okay. Thank you very much and good night.